Whew. All right. Good people of YouTube, what's going on? How are y'all doing? Hope y'all doing well. Now again, we're back. Now typically I always start my videos when I don't put out a video for a while, tell y'all where I've been, but honestly, do y'all really care? Do y'all really care? In reality is life happens. I have a job, I have a career. That's kind of my main focus, kind of how I make my money, how I fund this stuff. And I just got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life too. So a lot of times the gun content kind of takes a back seat sometimes, but yeah, I try to put out as much content as I can and when I can. And today is that day. Y'all are getting blessed. So appreciate y'all for all the support. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about PCCs, and I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite guns in my collection. I think this is one of the best PCCs anyone can pick up. And it's kind of an underdog, but I think it should get way more love than it actually gets. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and introduce my B&T GHM9 Gen 2. And yeah, let's talk about this thing. If you've heard this gun or you haven't, or if you're on the ropes about picking one up, we're going to break this gun down from top to bottom and talk about my ownership experience with this thing. I've had this thing for over a year now. And I'm gonna explain to you why I love it and why I kind of carry this as a backpack gun. Before we get started, y'all know how we do. I'm gonna unload the gun, show that everything is clear. Go ahead. Everything's cool. Gun is on safe. So yeah, everything's good. Let's get into the review. So the B&T GHM9 Gen 2. Let's talk about this thing really quick. So this is actually my second PCC. The first PCC that I ever owned was a CZ Scorpion Evo 3S1. I bought that in 2021. I paid the ridiculous crack cocaine COVID prices for that thing. So I paid like 1,300 bucks for it. Paid another 200 for like the brace setup that I had on it or whatever. So before I even did any real modifications to it, I spent about $1,500. Yes, I know, crazy amount, because I know now they go for like 600-700 bucks, but at the time that was my first big boy purchase, so I didn't really give a fuck about the money. So anyway, with that CZ Scorpion, I had it for almost 2 years, and it was a really cool gun until you shoot it. And I think that's where we kind of talk about the CZ Scorpion's downfalls. On my CZ Scorpion that I had, the base trigger on it was terrible. I don't know what that thing had going on, but the trigger on it was awful. The gun is a full polymer kind of setup, which that's not really a big deal, but again, it felt cheaply made. It recoiled crazy. The trigger was bad on it. That gun just required a lot to make it a really big contender. So I went HB Industries crazy on that thing. I changed the trigger shoe on that. I changed the trigger springs on it. I changed the charging handle on it. I did everything HB Industries on that thing that you can actually do. I changed the mag release on it as well. It just overall wasn't the best representation for a firearm. And at that time, I didn't own any suppressors, so I didn't even really get to experience it, you know, being suppressed or anything like that. And once again, the gun just felt really cheap. So it felt more like a toy. And at that time, like I said, I wasn't really well versed on PCCs. So it did the job for the moment. That is until we started reading about CZ's out of battery detonation with the bolts on those CZ Scorpions. Now, when discussing the CZ Scorpion and the bolt on it, the CZ Scorpion was created to be primarily shot fully automatic. So when it was imported to the States, they had to kind of make the bolt set up to where it couldn't be used fully automatic, because you guys know in the States, we can't just go to any store and pick up a fully automatic gun. We have to be at FFL, SOT, or we have to buy like a pre-band 86 kind of receiver. You know, it's just a bunch of stuff. We just can't go to any store and pick up a off the rack fully automatic gun. So CZ had to make adjustments to the bolt to allow it to not fire fully automatic. And that's kind of what happened there. So the bolt is pretty much a weak point on those CZ Scorpions. Now, I know some people are gonna sit here and say, oh, you know, it's overblown or whatever the case may be. And that's cool to say. The issue is that it happens enough, and it has happened to quite a bit of people for it to be a known issue. And apparently CZ knows about it, and they just don't give a fuck about it enough to fix it. They actually released the Evo 3 Plus with the same bolt. And that was kind of concerning for me, because a lot of the issues with the bolt are around the firing pin, where it starts to ping because it's beating itself up within the receiver. So a lot of times, you know, you may not even realize that your bolt is about to fail until you know, go out and fire it. Or you can look at it and kind of see the peening around the firing bolt or the firing pin, and kind of make a choice for yourself if it's almost there or whatever the case may be. But once again, it is a known issue, and CZ has yet to do anything about it. That being said, thanks to the aftermarket support that CZ Scorpion gets, there's a company called Nexus Firearms. They make a bolt, newly improved bolt with better materials, better metal, that pretty much eliminates the out of battery detonations that you can face with that CZ OEM bolt. The problem is that bolt is about $400. At the time it was $400. I don't know how much it costs today, but when you think about this, it's that for a gun that I paid $1,500 for, that I already had to put in about $350 to $400 in upgrades for, and now you're telling me in order for it to be bulletproof or bomb-proof, I have to spend another $400 to get it there? Wasn't really enticing to keep. And while I did like mine, I just didn't see the value in keeping it anymore. So sold that thing. So when I sold that thing, I started looking for another PCC because I love them. I think they serve a purpose, and for me, they just work out great. So I was looking at the CMMG Banshee, but those things have their own problems. I was looking at a bunch of other stuff, and there's just really not a PCC that did it for me. I know a lot of people say you can get an MP5 or an SP5 clone and, you know, all this other jazz. And I know those are cool too, but those things even have their own set of problems. And honestly, unpopular opinion, I don't really give a fuck about the SP5. I just don't. I know people like to talk about the whole roller delayed blowback, and that's cool, but I don't really care for it. So this thing was the one that actually caught my eye, and I did some research on it, and ultimately this is what I ended up with. And for the past year and some change, this has been my ride or die. This thing is really, really cool. It's been such a divine shooter, very reliable, and I plan on keeping this thing forever. I don't ever plan on getting rid of this thing. So this is actually the compact variant. They have a couple versions of this thing. They have the standard version that has a 6.7-inch barrel. The compact comes with a 4.3-inch barrel. They have SD versions. They have a bunch of different setups. They have FDE. They have it in black. I mean, this thing is just, it's so versatile. There's a lot of different ways you can go about getting one of these, depending on your flavor. I went with the compact version, mostly because shorty guns do it for me. The standard one is cool too. Like I said, I just like the shorter stuff, so it kind of worked. It is a direct blowback gun, so it isn't roller delayed, so it doesn't shoot as soft as a roller delayed setup, but for it to be direct blowback, honestly, I'm cool with that. It shoots really soft in my humble opinion, especially with the suppressor. I love this thing. Shoots way softer than my goddamn CZ Scorpion did, I'll tell you that much. The upper is actually fully machined on this thing, so it's really, really cool. Swiss made, so you know the machining is all good. Lower on this thing is polymer, so I mean, it's kind of the whole plastic kind of thing, but it's not that big of a deal for me. It kind of works really well. Doesn't feel cheap, doesn't feel like it's gonna break on me or anything like that. Just feels overall like a really, really nice gun. The gun is actually set up and it's created to kind of mitigate any injury in the event of an out of battery detonation. I seen there was a YouTuber, I think he had a out of battery detonation on his, and he was able to leave that thing unscathed just because of how they have it set up in the receiver, which I thought was really, really cool. And kind of just shows me the really nice representation of this firearm and how B&T kind of set this thing out to really be a hole puncher, to say the least. Speaking of the lower as well, one thing that really got me about this gun is that it is fully out of the box ambidextrous. As a lefty, I appreciate that more than you guys realize. And the lower is really cool because not only is it ambi, it can take pretty much AR parts. So for example, the actual trigger on this thing can be swapped out for an AR-15 trigger. You can put an AR-15 grip on this thing as well. Now, from my understanding, this is only on the Gen 2 version. And that's important to bring up because, like I said, this is the second gen. The first gen had problems of feeding hollow points reliably or feeding specific rounds reliably. So you definitely want to get the Gen 2 variant and make sure that you do get the Gen 2 variant. I don't really think they sell the Gen 1s anymore, so you shouldn't have a problem. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. Also with this gun as well, they have a couple lowers for you, so you can pick and choose what kind of lower you want to go with. So this is the Glock lower that I have on it. So it takes Glock magazines. They have lowers where you can use SIG's magazines. B&T also makes their lower where you can use B&T's mags. Now, the reason I went with the Glock lower was because from my research, the Glock lower was the most consistent and the most reliable version of this thing. The SIG version, I haven't really heard anything about it, mostly because I don't care for SIG's mags, so I didn't really have any interest in that. And the B&T lower, while I say aesthetically it looks better than the Glock one, that one kind of had the most issues, and it's mostly because the B&T magazines that they provide and they manufacture aren't the most sturdy magazines. There's a lot of reports of people saying that the magazines crack, they break easily if you drop them. They have to kind of use what is called like a little bumper pad on the bottom of those B&T mags. So if they drop them, they don't land flat on the ass and end up cracking those mags. And from my understanding, those mags aren't really the cheapest. So that's kind of why I went with the Glock lower. Now, KCI, they do make magazines for the B&T lower that people love to run, and I've heard that those are great. But just to kind of avoid all that, I went ahead and went with the Glock lower, and safe to say, I'm happy I did that. Another reason I went with the Glock lower is just off this. I mean, this is a 24 round Glock magazine. I kind of use this in here. And the reason I like it so much is because on my Glock 19, this is my Glock 19, I'm gonna do a video on this as well, but on my Glock 19, that same mag I took out that GHM9 works in this just perfectly. So it's really cool that I can use the same mag for my main piece and my side piece. So that is kind of what also got me to go ahead and pick up the Glock lower variants of that gun. So it's also really cool. You might want to keep that in mind. To show a little bit more love on this thing, and like I said, it's fully 100% ambidextrous. So it typically comes with a little lever kind of set up on the safety switches. I went ahead and swapped those out, mostly because as a lefty, they were digging into my hands whenever it was on, you know, the fire mechanism mode or whatever. It would always kind of dig into my hand. So I went ahead and took that out and put one of the other, I think HB Industries made these as well. I could be wrong. I'm gonna do some research again. It's been a while since I bought these pieces, but everything else is cool. This gun has fully ambi magazine drop, has a fully ambi bolt drop as well. So there's one on this side right there, and there's one on that side. This is also where the other magazine release is on this thing. Really, really cool. I also like the fact that the charging handle could be swapped to the other side as well. So you see this charging handle right here. You can swap it to this side and you can use it, you know, whichever way you like to. And yeah, like I said, it's really, really cool. This is why it's one of my favorites as well. Now, talking about the shooting experience with this thing, man, and like I said, it's a really nice shooting gun. I shoot it suppressed 100% of the time. Before I didn't, but now I do, now that I have a suppressor for it. But I shoot this thing suppressed all the time, and my God, when I say it is almost like that movie quality quiet with subsonic ammo, let's put that out there. With subsonic ammo, it is almost that movie quiet shooting that everybody craves to get. I mean, this thing is a powerhouse, but it sounds so good suppressed because it just sounds like a nail gun. Whew. Maybe it's quiet though. A lot of people always hear it at the range and they're just like, dude, what the hell is that? What you shooting? What's this and that? And I always tell them, dude, this is a 9mm PCC. And yeah, like I said, again, it's one of my favorite shooters. It's soft shooting, not really a problem on it. I typically use my Rex Selenium MG7K on this thing. Right now I have my Wolfman on the top of it just because I think it looks cool with the black, but I use my MG7K on this thing. And yeah, once again, really, really nice shooting gun. Now, another cool thing about this gun is that pretty much out of the box, it came with everything that I was gonna need to run it. So it comes with these iron sights on there, or polymer sights, because these are polymer. It comes with these out of the box. I did not buy these. Again, like I said, the gun is ambi. It comes with this little lanyard kind of sling piece. I don't use this because I have a sling that I use better for this. But yeah, like I said, it comes with everything you're gonna need essentially to get ripping and running out of the box. Any other the extras that I have on it right now, I added just because I actually run this thing. But I mean, like I said, it's fully ambi out of the gate. It has the lanyard sling piece out of the gate, backup irons out of the gate. I mean, this gun is just, I don't really know what else I can say about this thing. This thing is just everything I wanted in a PCC. It's really, really cool. Been really, really reliable, and it's been dope. Out of the box, it comes with one 33 round magazine. This is the Glock variant, so it came with the Glock mag. Whichever variant you get, that's the mag it's gonna come with. But it comes with one. If you have Glocks, you really don't need to go out and go buy any more mags because they're all gonna work with this thing. As long as it's the 9mm double stack variant, they're all gonna work just fine. So we are gonna get into the upgrades I did make on this thing because no gun is perfect out of the box. This one was pretty close to it, but there's some improvements that could be made. Now they are personal preference. You don't have to make these upgrades, but for ease of use, I just did. So going from top to bottom, we have a Reardon Mini mounting solution on this thing. I use Reardon on all my stuff. Anything that has a suppressor, it is using Reardon mounts. So that's pretty much always what you're gonna see. You can get a tri-lug mount on this thing, or you can get a regular threaded protector. Mine came with the threaded protector, so I just took it off and mounted this on. It's really, really easy. We've got a Modlite PLH V2 on this thing, 18350 dual fuel with the DS00 tail cap and the Unity Mod button light on the other side. We got Dive Free Co's Kung Fu grip on this thing. I love these grips, by the way. Pretty much any gun that I have with a swappable grip is running one of these. My 5.56, my Spiro T, my 300 Blackout setup is running one. I love these things. We got safety selectors that are swapped out. I believe these are from HB Industries as well. I'm gonna research, but essentially I did that because I'm not gonna lie, the stock safety selectors on this thing, they are pretty rough, kind of rugged around the edges. You're probably gonna wanna swap that out or work on it or some shit. But again, went ahead and swapped that out. It's really easy, takes no time. This is SBR'd, so we have an angled foregrip on this thing. Now, to the ATF, y'all know how they are. They're pretty much, they don't know what the fuck they're doing up there, but to them, this is a vertical grip. To me, it's angled, but this is SBR'd, so I can go ahead and run it. We do have a Magpul QD mount right here, because like I said, I pretty much use my own sling for this thing. Now for the optic, we are running an Aimpoint Acro P2 with B&T's custom Acro mount. Typically, when Aimpoint is marketing these guns on their social media, they're typically running Aimpoints. I had a Hollow Sun on this on top before. I took it off just because I felt like this was more fitting. Really, really cool. Now the mount, it is an FDE. B&T makes 2 colors of this, but when they did one of the variants of the Acro with the GHM9, they did it where it came with an FDE Acro and this mount. Someone sold theirs and I ended up with it. They do make them in black, but they're really hard to find. So I just went ahead and put the FDE one on there. And I think it kind of fits cool. It looks really cool. It kind of contrasts the whole black. So I just go, went ahead and dealt with it. We do have B&T's telescopic braid / stock kind of setup with a Gearhead Works tailhook Mod 1C that has its actual own QD slot on it. So this is kind of how I run it. This is kind of how I use it all the time. And yeah, like I said, it really gets small, compact, and it's become a car gun for me. I mean, like I said, I travel with this thing everywhere when I go state to state. At least in the states that I have sent the paperwork to be able to take it there. So I go to Atlanta a lot, so I do kind of bring this with me all the time. And yeah, like I said, it's one of my babies. Oh, I mean, that's pretty much all the positive stuff of this gun. This gun is really, really great. Now, because I'm not biased, and y'all should know at this point, nothing is safe for me. There is some negatives with this thing, and it's honestly not really with the gun itself. It's mostly around B&T. And this will kind of be one thing that can sway someone away from buying one. So let's get into those negatives. So the first things first is B&T, they're a great company. They're pretty much known all around at this point, and they know that. So unfortunately, I will say, while this gun, at the time when I bought this, was affordable, it has pretty much went up in price now. I bought this thing last year in March, so I paid around, I think like $1,200 for it at the time. Now, you could actually find those things, you can find these things cheaper back then. I mean, you were able to find these things under $1,000 all day. I just ended up paying like, I think $1,200 plus like a couple, or it might have been 14, one of those, but I did pay more than the typical person would have paid last year. Unfortunately, now these things are kind of up in price now. I've seen them go for $1,500, $1,600 today. And that kind of sucks, because now you're kind of getting into the other realm of other PCCs that, a lot of people kind of argue about and say that are kind of better than this, which I fully disagree with. But at this point, I mean, you can get SP5 clones for cheaper. That's kind of, if that kind of does it for you, you can go ahead and get AP5s and all the other SP5 variants for around that price. So roller delay blowback, again, they have a fan base. So if you're into that, you may not want this now because of that price hike. But again, I don't care for it. So this worked for me just fine. The next thing I'm going to ding them for, if the gun's price isn't what sways you away from getting one of these, it's definitely going to be the parts price. B&T has lost their fucking mind with a lot of these parts. This telescopic portion of this brace / stock setup, whatever, this thing is not cheap, okay? This thing cost me around $500, okay? I wanna make sure y'all heard me right when I say this. This portion, this little piece right here that slides back and forth, cost me around $500. What? So like I said, if you haven't already fainted, the parts for this thing is gonna get you. And like I said, when it comes to the telescopic portion, it's literally just the piece that goes back and forth. The tail hook does not come with this. The tail hook was an extra $170. So I'm almost in the hole just on this back part, $700, okay? So more than half of what I paid for this gun in particular went into this telescopic portion. And you may be able to find them cheaper sometimes, but a lot of times you won't be. The only thing I will say that's good about this telescopic brace is that because sometimes with the telescopic portion, if you do SBR this thing, it comes with this little 2 parts. And when you get the stock conversion, because there's a stock conversion where you can actually lose a tube and convert it to a stock with a butt pad, that's cool. But that thing is $130 just for the conversion parts, right? And then B&T offers for the actual charging handle, This thing right here, it sticks out like a sore thumb, right? B&T offers a foldable charging handle for this thing. That foldable piece, I literally have it because I used to run it on here, but that little foldable thing right there is $100. $100. It's a polymer piece with just, you know, kind of hanging off on metal. $100 for that thing. And it's kind of inconvenient because you can only run it on this side. And as you can clearly see, with the light, I really couldn't run it. I had to kind of go ahead and take it off because it just didn't work. It was getting in the way of the light, and you know, I couldn't actually pull the charging handle back. You can always drop the bolt, but again, it kind of makes it more inconvenient. The reason it couldn't go on this side is because the way that the actual folding mechanism folded, it folded to the front. This gun ejects from this side. So when it's folded up, it pretty much runs the potential of causing a failure or something of that nature, and you don't want that. So you only could really run it on this side. Very inconvenient, very expensive. You don't need that damn thing. So I would personally, in my humble opinion, keep the regular charging handle and either don't use it or just drop the bolt. That's my opinion. Another thing I'm gonna ding this thing for is just the way that the buffer and the actual bolt kind of setup is. So this has a buffer that is kind of being held in by this stock or brace kind of piece. It gets held in. When you remove it, that motherfucker shoots across the damn room because of the way that they have it set up on here. So that can be annoying sometimes, but I've learned enough and taken it down so many times that I've learned how to control it now. But when you first take it down and kind of do some work on it, be careful because that buffer does shoot out of this damn thing. Now, they make another gun called the APC9, which has a different version of that bolt and buffer kind of setup that doesn't shoot out, but that thing is almost $1,200 more than this. And the only difference that it has is the way that the buffer and the bolt is set up, as well as that bolt on the APC9 is non-reciprocating. This one is a reciprocating charging handle, so it does go back when you shoot it. Like I said, with the whole folding charging handle situation, it does go back. So that could be kind of a dinger as well if you're kind of bitchy about that. This definitely does have a reciprocating charging handle, so that's another thing to keep in mind. So we talked about the positives, the negatives with this gun. The ultimate question will be, do I regret it, or would I not do this again if I went back in time? And the answer is absolutely not. I love this gun so much. This gun is everything for me. It's great. It's a really nice suppressor host. There's really nothing that will make me say, fuck this gun, really. This gun has been every bit of reliable. It is super cool. I mean, it's so compact, it's convenient. Again, there's other versions of B&T that you can get that are, you know, PCCs, but in my opinion, I don't see the upside in paying more for an APC or whatever other version that they have. This gun does everything I needed to do. It has always done everything I needed to do. And yeah, definitely a gun that I'm gonna keep for a very long time. I don't think I will ever get rid of this thing. So if you're in the market for a PCC, or you've been looking at one of these for a long time and you're trying to answer if you should pick one up, I would tell you, go run to the fucking store, go pick one of these up. Now, again, the price hike on this thing, there are other competitors now. There are other guns that you can go ahead and pick. There's guns that are coming out from these manufacturers that may give this gun a little bit more run for its money. I know LWRC is working on a PCC. I know Daniel Defense is working on a PCC. I mean, the PCC game is really becoming more broad by the day. And there's a lot of competitors coming out right now. But that being said, I still pick this thing over a lot of these PCCs that are out right now. I would never get rid of this thing. It's been such a great workhorse for me. And I keep it as a PDW, personal defense weapon. And I also use it for home defense. I keep this gun by my bedside all the time. I live in an apartment, so ideally my big stuff, my 7.62, my 5.56, my 300 Blackout, while they at least my 300 blackout in that case. It may be a little bit quieter, but I kind of don't want to run the risk of over penetration. I do live by people, so again, this works out really, really cool. So I absolutely recommend this thing. I definitely think you won't regret it. And yeah, that's my thoughts. So that's my review on the GHM9 Gen 2. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully I was able to help you guys out. Hopefully I was able to answer majority of you guys' questions. If you have any more questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as fast as I can or the best of my ability. And yeah, appreciate you guys for stopping by. Appreciate y'all for the time. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.